counted them while they died. 1,177 men. I know because I wrote down their ship assignments 6 months before they burned. I knew their duty stations. I knew their watch schedules. I knew which deck they slept on and which stairwell they would use when the alarm sounded. I knew all of this because I had asked their friends over tennis games and beach picnics, because I had smiled at their wives at dinner parties, because I had taken notes in invisible ink while drinking their beer. My name is Takeo Yoshikawa, Imperial Japanese Navy Intelligence Officer, cover identity, minor diplomatic clerk, named Tadashi Morimura at the Japanese consulate in Honolulu, Hawaii. I arrived March 27, 1941. 9 months later, I provided the intelligence that made Pearl Harbor possible. This is not the story of a hero. This is the story of a man who became so good at being no one that he forgot who he was. August 1941. Lieutenant James Morrison invited me to dinner at his house in Pearl City. Morrison was a communications officer on the USS Arizona. We had met at the Baratania Tennis Club, where I played twice weekly, always looking for American servicemen who might talk. Morrison was exactly what I needed: friendly, trusting, proud of his work. His house was small, modest, the kind of place a junior officer could afford on Navy pay. His wife Sarah answered the door with a smile that made my stomach hurt. She was pregnant, maybe 5 months. Behind her, 2 children peeked out, James Jr., age 7, and Elizabeth, age 5. "Mr. Morimura," Morrison's voice boomed from inside. Come in, Sarah's made pot roast. I brought gifts, a silk fan for Sarah, candy for the children, small gestures that made me seem thoughtful, human. Morrison gave me a tour while Sarah finished cooking. The house had 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a small kitchen. Through the living room window, I could see Pearl Harbor. I could see Battleship Row. I counted them while we ate pot roast. USS Arizona, BB-39, moored at berth F7. USS Oklahoma, BB-37, berth F5. USS West Virginia, BB-48, berth F6. I counted them while Morrison's daughter sang an off-key song about sunshine. I counted them while his son asked me questions about Japan with the earnest curiosity of a 7-year-old. "Do you have children back home, Mr. Morimura?" Sarah asked. "No," I said. "No wife, no children. That must be lonely." "Sometimes." After dinner, Morrison walked me through his small garden. The sun was setting. The harbor glowed orange and gold. Beautiful, peaceful. He offered me a cigarette. We smoked in silence for a moment. "Can I ask you something personal?" Morrison said. "Of course." "Do you think there will be war between our countries?" I looked at him, at his open, honest face, at the trust in his eyes. "I hope not," I said, and I meant it. In that moment, I truly meant it. "Me too," Morrison said. He put his hand on my shoulder. "Whatever happens between our governments, you and I are friends. Remember that." I left Morrison's house at 8:47 p.m. I know the exact time because I checked my watch. I walked 3 blocks before I vomited in someone's bushes, not from alcohol, from guilt, from understanding exactly what I was about to do. I went home to the consulate. I sat at my desk. I took out the piece of wax paper Sarah had wrapped the leftover cake in. I ate the cake while I wrote my intelligence report in code. USS Arizona, berth F7, crew 1400, optimal strike window 0600-0800, Sunday morning when maximum personnel aboard. Communication center located on second deck, frame 70, directly in path of magazine explosion if forward turrets are struck. I was writing Morrison's death sentence. I knew it. I tasted Sarah's vanilla cake and I wrote down how to kill her husband. The cake tasted like ash. I ate every crumb. The intelligence gathering continued for months. I swam at Waikiki Beach every morning, counting ships entering and leaving the harbor. I took glass-bottom boat tours 8 times, noting the depth and seabed composition. I paid taxi drivers $40 to take me to the heights above Pearl Harbor, where I could photograph ship positions through binoculars that cost me $12. $12. That's what it cost to gather the intelligence that killed 2,403 Americans. $12 for binoculars, 75 cents for each boat tour, $20 for tourist maps, $40 in taxi bribes, less than $200 total. December 6, 1941. My final intelligence report confirmed all American carriers were at sea. The battleships remained, 8 of them, sitting ducks. I encoded the message and sent it through the consulate's secure channel. Then I went to bed. I didn't sleep. I lay in the darkness counting my heartbeats and wondering if it was too late to stop what I had set in motion. It was far too late. December 7th, 1941, 7:48 a.m. I was on the consulate roof with binoculars when the first wave struck. 183 aircraft, torpedo bombers coming in low over the harbor, dive bombers screaming down from altitude, fighters strafing anything that moved. At 8:06 a.m., the USS Arizona exploded. I watched it happen through my $12 binoculars. A bomb penetrated the forward magazine. The explosion was so massive it lifted the entire front of the ship out of the water. 1,177 men died, most of them in the first 30 seconds. Morrison was in the communications room, second deck, frame 70. When the magazine exploded, the temperature in that space reached 1,600 degrees. Morrison would have had perhaps 15 seconds of consciousness, long enough to understand, not long enough to do anything but die screaming. I gave him that death. I stood on the roof watching the Arizona burn. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the binoculars. Around me, consulate staff were cheering, celebrating. A great victory for the Empire. I couldn't make a sound. I couldn't look away. I watched Morrison's ship become his grave and understood that I had just murdered my only friend. The FBI came on December 8th. Special Agent Rogers arrived at 7 a.m. with coffee and questions. For 6 weeks, he interrogated me daily. He was good, professional, patient. He suspected me immediately, but suspicion isn't proof. "Tell me about your tennis partner," Rogers said during our 5th interview. "Lieutenant Morrison, we played twice weekly." "What did you discuss?" "Tennis, life, normal conversation." "Did he ever mention his work?" "Never. He was very professional." Rogers smiled. He didn't believe me, but he couldn't prove otherwise. I had been careful. Every conversation with Morrison had been about personal topics, family, sports, movies. I had never directly asked about military matters. I had simply observed, listened, remembered. The interrogations continued. Rogers brought evidence, taxi receipts showing trips to observation points above the harbor, tennis club records proving my friendship with Morrison, reports from 3 different taxi drivers describing a Japanese man who paid premium rates to sit on hillsides with binoculars. "Explain this," Rogers said, showing me a receipt. "I enjoy views. Hawaii is beautiful. You took the same taxi route 6 times. I found it relaxing. We played chess during our sessions. Rogers was good. We won equal numbers of games. He was trying to build rapport, trying to make me comfortable enough to slip. I understood the technique because I had used it on Morrison. In the 3rd week, Rogers made his move. We found something in the consulate garbage before everything was burned. Taxi receipts to observation points. Someone was watching the harbor for months. Many people on staff take taxis. The drivers remember the passenger, Japanese man, average height, glasses, perfect English. Sound familiar? Many people match that description. Rogers captured my bishop. You're very good at this game. Thank you. I mean the other game, the one we're really playing. We stared at each other across the chessboard. He knew. I knew he knew. But knowing isn't proof. The final interrogation came in May 1942. Rogers entered my room without the chess set, without his folder. He stood in the doorway looking at me for a long moment. "I know it was you," he said quietly. I kept my face blank. "I don't understand." "You understand perfectly. The taxi trips, the tennis games with Morrison, the swimming every morning where you had a perfect view of the harbor entrance, the glass-bottom boat tours. 8 times. You took that tour 8 times. I know it was you. I know you gave them Pearl Harbor. I know Morrison died because you sat at his table and counted his battleships. I cannot prove it, but I know. If you know, then why am I leaving? Because you're very good. Because you burned everything. Because diplomatic immunity protects you." Rogers stepped closer. "But I want you to understand something. What you did here didn't win Japan the war. It started a war Japan cannot win. You killed 2,000 Americans and woke up a nation of 130 million who will now devote every factory to crushing your empire. You bought Japan 6 months of success and guaranteed decades of defeat. You're not a hero. You're the man who destroyed his own country." He turned to leave. I spoke before I could stop myself. "Morrison was my friend." Rogers looked back. "Was he? Did friends map each other's deaths?" "You were never Morrison's friend. You were his assassin. You just took 6 months to pull the trigger." June 15, 1942. I boarded the MS Gripsholm in Honolulu Harbor for repatriation to Japan. Rogers was on the dock watching. Our eyes met. I considered waving, some gesture of acknowledgement. Instead, I looked away. The ship departed at noon. I stood on deck watching Hawaii recede. Pearl Harbor was visible. The Arizona was still there, underwater, her masts and superstructure visible above the waterline like a gravestone. Morrison was still inside, still at his post. His body would never be recovered. I took out the photograph, the one from August showing Morrison and me on his terrace, smiling like friends. I tore it into small pieces. I opened the porthole. I released the pieces into the wind. They scattered across the water like ash. April 1995. 53 years after Pearl Harbor, I am sitting at my small table in Tokyo drinking tea when the envelope arrives. American postage, San Diego, California. Return address, E. Morrison, Elizabeth Morrison, 5 years old in 1941, the little girl who hid behind her mother's skirt and then sang an off-key song about sunshine. She would be 59 now. I hold the envelope for 20 minutes, then I open it. Dear Mr. Yoshikawa, my name is Elizabeth Morrison Chen. You knew me as Elizabeth Morrison when I was 5 years old. You came to our house for dinner in August 1941. You brought a silk fan. I still have it. Last month, I found your name in declassified documents. You were the intelligence officer responsible for Pearl Harbor. I found a photograph in my mother's belongings. 5 men on a terrace. One is my father. One is you. On the back, my mother wrote, Jim's tennis partner, August 1941. You were his friend. And you were the spy who killed him. I am not writing to accuse you. You were following orders. War is terrible, but I need you to understand what you took. My brother James stopped talking for 6 months after Pearl Harbor, complete silence. When he turned 18, he enlisted in the Marines. He went to Korea. He was killed at Chosin Reservoir in December 1950. He was 19. My mother always said James had been trying to find Daddy. Your intelligence took my father, but it also took my brother. One bomb killed them both. It just took James 9 years longer to die. My mother never recovered. She remarried, but she never loved him the way she loved Daddy. She kept his uniforms for 40 years. She visited the Arizona Memorial every December 7th until she was too sick to travel. The last time I saw her before she died, dementia made her forget. She kept asking when Jim was coming home. I had to tell my dying mother over and over that her husband was dead. Each time she heard it like new information. I am not writing for revenge. I am writing because my father was not a number. He was Jim Morrison. He made terrible jokes. He burned toast. He cried at movies. He taught me to swim. He read bedtime stories in funny voices. He was my father, and you took him from me when I was 5 years old. Did you think about us? When you wrote your reports? When you encoded coordinates? Did you think about me singing, about my mother's cake? Did we matter at all? I am enclosing a photograph from my 8th birthday in 1944. That is me in front. My brother James is next to me. He never smiled after Daddy died. My mother is in back, trying to smile, but her eyes are empty. There is a 4th person who should be in this photograph, but he is at the bottom of Pearl Harbor in a communications room on a ship that is his grave. You put him there. I hope you see our faces every day for whatever time you have left. Elizabeth Morrison Chen. I read the letter 3 times. Then I look at the photograph. Elizabeth is 8, thin, serious, not smiling. James stands stiff like a soldier already. Their mother's hand rests on Elizabeth's shoulder, but her face is hollow. There is a space where Morrison should be standing, a father-shaped absence so profound it's almost visible. I walk to the bathroom. I look at myself in the mirror, 78 years old, but I can still see him. 28-year-old Takeo Yoshikawa, the perfect spy, the man who ate cake while encoding death. He is still there, and he is a murderer. I return to the table. I take out paper and pen. I begin to write. Dear Elizabeth, you asked if I thought about you? Yes. Every day since December 7th, 1941, I see your face, 5 years old, singing off-key but fearless. I see your father's hand on your head, gentle, proud. I see all of it. I have seen it for 53 years and 4 months, and I will see it until I die. You asked if you mattered. You mattered more than my mission, more than my orders. That is why I vomited after leaving your house. That is why I tasted ash while eating your mother's cake and writing coordinates. You mattered. Your family mattered. And I killed your father anyway. I had a choice. Every human being has a choice. I could have refused. I could have provided false intelligence. I could have delayed reports. I could have warned someone. I chose duty over morality. I chose my emperor over my conscience. I chose my mission over my humanity. Those were my choices. I am responsible. You want to know what I took? I will tell you exactly. I took your father, James Morrison, 32 years old. He died at 8:06 on December 7th in a communications room. The temperature reached 1600 degrees. He had 15 seconds of consciousness, long enough to understand he was dying, long enough to think of you and your brother and your mother, not long enough to escape. I gave him that death. I measured it. I planned it. I reported the coordinates that made it possible. I took your brother, James Jr. He died at Chosin trying to become worthy of a ghost. Your brother died because I killed his father. I took your mother, Sarah Morrison. She survived 53 more years, but I killed her in August 1941 when I sat at her table and counted ships through her window. The dementia at the end was mercy. And I took you. Elizabeth Morrison, 5 years old. I took your father before you knew him. I took your whole childhood. I took your wedding without a father. I took your children's grandfather. I took the family you should have had. That is what I took. 4 lives, 1 immediately, 3 slowly. You asked if it was worth it. No, nothing was worth what I did. Not duty, not honor, not service, not Japan's 6 months of military success before inevitable defeat. None of it was worth your father's life. None of it was worth your brother's death. None of it was worth your mother's 50 years of grief. The cost was 4 lives destroyed and 1 life hollowed out. Yours and mine. I have been dead since December 7th, 1941. Everything after has been mechanical, breathing, eating, existing, but not living. You said you teach 2nd grade. You have 3 grandchildren. You have had a good life despite what I took from you. That is not forgiveness, but it means something. It means I did not destroy everything. You survived. That matters. Before I die, I need you to know 3 things. First, your father was a good man, better than he knew. He saw a stranger far from home and tried to be kind. That kindness was real. It mattered. It still matters. Second, I am sorry. I know words cannot resurrect the dead or heal 53 years of grief. But I am sorry. Sorry I chose mission over morality. Sorry I killed your father while pretending to be his friend. Sorry I destroyed your family. Third, you were right to write this letter. You were right to make me see your faces. You were right to demand I understand that your father was not a number. Thank you for making my last years more painful. I deserve that pain. I am enclosing the wax paper from your mother's cake. I kept it for 54 years. It still smells faintly of vanilla. It belongs to your family, not to me. I am also enclosing the photograph from August 1941. It shows me and your father smiling like friends. We were not friends. He was being kind. I was betraying. This photograph is a lie, but it is the only image of your father I have. It should be with your family. When I die, I will die seeing your faces. 5-year-old Elizabeth singing. 7-year-old James shaking my hand. Sarah Morrison asking if I would like more pot roast. Jim Morrison with his arm around my shoulders, trusting and kind and completely unaware I was counting the days until I killed him. You hoped I would never forget. I never have. I never will. The perfect spy with perfect memory of every detail of his perfect crime. That is my punishment. That is justice. Thank you for being strong enough to confront your father's murderer. Thank you for surviving what I did to you. Thank you for building a good life and having grandchildren and finding joy despite the hole I created. That survival is its own revenge. You refused to stay destroyed. You rebuilt. You lived. You won. I am sorry. I will always be sorry. Takeo Yoshikawa. I seal the letter with the wax paper and the torn photograph. I walk to the post office. 3 blocks. Each step feels heavier, like I am carrying weight that has accumulated for 53 years. I mail the letter. It will take 2 weeks to reach San Diego. I walk home. The apartment is exactly as I left it. Small, spare, empty. 2 rooms. 1 window. No visitors. This is how I have lived since 1947, carefully invisible. A ghost among the living. I sit at my table. I take out my leather notebook, the one filled with numbers that murdered 2,003 Americans. I open to August 1941. There is my handwriting. USS Arizona, BB-39, berth F7, crew 1400, optimal strike coordinates. I tear out those pages. I light them with a match. I watch them burn in the sink. Morrison's death sentence becoming smoke. But it changes nothing. The coordinates are ash, but the Arizona is still underwater. Morrison is still dead. His daughter still lost her father. Burning paper does not resurrect the dead. I walk to the window. Outside, Tokyo continues. People walking. Life happening. The city has been rebuilt. The scars have healed. The war is history. Most people below have no memory of it. No knowledge that the man watching from this window gave Japan the intelligence that started it all. I am 78 years old. When I die, there will be no funeral, no family, no friends, no one who will care that the perfect spy finally stopped breathing. That is appropriate. That is what I deserve. Elizabeth's letter sits on my table. I read it again. I study the photograph. 8-year-old Elizabeth not smiling. James stiff like a soldier. Sarah hollow-eyed. The father's shaped absence so profound it is almost visible. This is what the perfect spy accomplished. This photograph. This grief. This destruction. Not victory. Not honor. Just a small family with a hole that will never be filled. When I die, who will remember what I did? Elizabeth will remember, but eventually she will die too. And then who? Eventually time will erase all of it. The faces, the cost, the truth. But not yet. Not today. Today I remember. Today Elizabeth remembers. Today the ghosts are still real, and the truth is still visible. I fold Elizabeth's letter. I place it with the torn photograph and the wax paper in the drawer with my notebook. All the evidence together, all the pieces of the crime, ready for whoever finds them when I die. Perhaps no one will. Perhaps the landlord will throw everything away, the perfect spy disappearing completely, or perhaps someone will find them, read them, understand, connect the pieces, the daughter's letter, the spy's confession, the wax paper that smells of vanilla, the notebook full of coordinates. Perhaps someone will understand the cost. Either way, it changes nothing. Morrison is still dead. Elizabeth still lost her father. History is written. The past is fixed. All that remains is the waiting, the years between now and death, the time when I continue breathing while carrying ghosts that grow heavier each day. I return to the window. The sun is setting. Tokyo glows in the darkness, beautiful, modern, alive. I stand watching until the last light fades, and I am just a shadow in a small window. The perfect spy, perfect mission, perfect success, perfect destruction, perfect punishment. 53 years and counting. However many years remain. All of them carrying the weight of $12 binoculars and 75-cent boat tours and vanilla cake and 1,177 men burning while I watched and understood that I had destroyed everything that mattered while accomplishing everything my mission required. That is what it means to be perfect. That is what it costs. Everything, everyone, including yourself, especially yourself. The ghosts sit with me in the darkness. Morrison, Sarah, James, Elizabeth. They are always here. They will be here until I die. And perhaps after. Perhaps when I die, I will finally meet Morrison again, and he will ask the question I have been asking myself for 53 years. Was it worth it? And I will give him the only answer that has ever been true. No, nothing was ever worth what I did to you. Nothing will ever balance what I took. I am sorry. I will always be sorry. And sorry changes nothing. That is the final lesson the perfect spy learned. Perfect operations achieve perfect objectives, but some costs cannot be calculated. Some prices cannot be paid. Some crimes cannot be forgiven. Not by others, not by time, not by yourself. The perfect spy destroys the enemy and himself. Mission accomplished. Both objectives achieved. Perfect success. Perfect failure. Perfect justice. I sit in the darkness with my ghosts and wait for morning. Just another day of remembering. Just another day of being dead while still breathing. Just another day of carrying Pearl Harbor and Morrison and Elizabeth and the knowledge that I was the perfect spy and perfection destroyed everything. The tea grows cold, the city sleeps, the ghosts remain, and I wait. That is all that is left. Waiting, remembering, carrying the cost. The perfect spy in his perfect prison. 53 years served, however many years remain. All of them the same, all of them deserved, all of them too late to matter.